Okay, so what is on the agenda today, right? What are we going to talk about today? First thing is we're going to talk about what exactly is design. We're going to cover um, we're going to cover um, famous designers, famous or great people who have talked about design. What are their aspects of design? How are they explaining about design? Okay, that we will take up, and that explanation will also explain as to what exactly is design. Then we'll talk about brief history about design. Why do we need to understand? Why do we have to look at a history of design? Because when you look at the history, then you will know what the future comes, how the future will be, right? So hence it is pretty important for us, for everybody, to know about the history of whatever you are learning, right? That's become the foundational for your knowledge. Then three, we'll talk about the key components of design. This already been hinted in LinkedIn if somebody follows me in LinkedIn, but the explanation was not there. I'm going to explain all the three components on the best or the most important three components of design. Then we'll talk about design principles. Okay, and then we'll talk about different type of designers and what are their roles are, how are they related with each other and all the stuff. And six, we'll talk about the relationship between designer type and the design principle. So four, how does design principle relate to each of the designers? That is what going to be covered in the sixth uh, chapter or sixth agenda of this. Cool. Okay, so what is design, right? Let's understand from Albert A. Simon. He is an American political scientist. He is also a winner of a Turing Award. Turing Award generally given to the person who has done exceptional, great work in computer science. So he is one of the awardee. And he said that to design is to devise course of action aimed at changing existing situation into preferred one. Like, it's very important. So now look at the depth of design he is presenting. He's saying the design is to devise the course of action. He's saying design is making that course of action, making that to-do list to do, to change whatever right now it is to something you prefer it to be, right? For example, if your room is messy, right? If your room is messy, to make it tidy or neat, you have to do some course of action. That course of action is design. This is the simplest example I'm giving you. There are biggest problem in this world. For example, we have a problem of global warming, right? Now, how do we solve it, right? So there are course of action which we should do. That course of action is design, according to Albert. So he's opening up the entire design. He's saying design is bigger than you even think. Whatever you are currently having, whatever experience or whatever things you have currently, if you want to change that into the preferred one, then you are performing a design act. It's huge, right? It's opening up the entire design space. Richard is a professor of design. What he says is design is conception and planning of artificial, even bigger. What he's saying, there are two factors. One is natural. That means everything which nature has built is natural. Everything which human has built is artificial. The laptop, the mobile which we have, the buildings, the house, the ACs, everything is artificial. And the envisioning and or the conceptualization of that product, that services, and planning to deliver it is design, right? So everything in this world, whatever we have, is either natural or artificial. And when it comes to an artificial thing, that there where the design comes in. It's huge, right? It's not at all putting lipstick on a pig. It is far, far bigger than that. Max Bill, he's Swiss architecture, and he's also an industrial designer and graphic designer. What he says is, he says design participates in the making of a new culture, from spoon to city. Now, what he's saying is that design can be as small as designing a spoon or creating or making a spoon, to as big as designing the entire city or building the entire city. Design is as big, as small as designing or creating a spoon, as big as creating a city. How big design is, right? To this point, I want to bring one more quote by Steve Jobs. Everybody knows Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs said, design is not only how it looks or feel. Design is also about how it works, right? So it's not about just the color, typography, or layout or anything else, right? It is more than that. It is more about the experience the product can bring. It is about how the product will work. That is what design is. That has been said by Steve Jobs. Okay. We have one more great organization, UK Design Council, who also has given us the double diamond. Uh, the design framework of double diamond. They have given us. What they says is great design is about finding practical, real world solution to the biggest issues facing us today. So design is about finding practical, real world solution to the biggest issue facing us today. What are the biggest issue we're facing? Huge, right? We have poverty, we have global warming, we have population, we have crimes, we have huge, right? There are huge number of problems in this world, issues in this world. Designers' work is to solve those problems. This kind of problem, these are the biggest problem. Solving small problems like, the button is not visible, that is one small part of the problem. If you see big problems like this, poverty, global warming, populations, these are the biggest problem. This is where designers should contribute towards also. They also go forward and said, design isn't just making things. They said it's about making lives, community, and industries better. What they suggest is every industry, communities, every touch point where lives matter should have a designer who designed the entire experience, or who designed that product, or who designed that community, everything inside it. This is what UX Design Council said about, right? So with this quote, with 3-4 quotes which I have just mentioned about this great people, it is pretty clear that design is not just what you look like or what you think about, right? Most people who aren't aware about design, they think it's about color, it's about typography, or it's just about, wow, beautiful things. No, not just that. Design is more than that, right? Design is about creating cultures. Design is about creating all the artificial things which we have in this universe or in this world, right? So design is big. Okay, so now we will try to understand brief about history of design. What I'm going to do is we will see some of the most important events in the history, and we'll try to relate that with design. All right. So we have this. So why do we have to learn about the history of design? Is because the farther backward you can see, the farther forward you can see, as I explained you earlier also. The better you know your past, the better you will know your future. Okay, so we'll start with this. About 3.3 million years ago, right? Early humans, they struck two stones together and they've created this beautiful design. This is the first instance you can find when the design happened, when they have designed it, when they have created something, right? This is the first trace of design. They have created this tool on the right hand side. You can see this. This is the tool they have created, right, to chop off things. This is the first trace of design, right? You can see there is a usability factor in it. You can see that stone I can hold it in my hand. So it's usable, right? The first thing, even 3.3 million years ago, they've created a design, a tool which can be held, which is usable. Okay, so usable is the core here. Then we'll move forward 33,000 years ago. Okay, what happened? We started cave painting, or we can say Homo sapiens started to, cave painting. What does this means? It means that we started to communicate. We started communicate with one generation to another generation, or one people to another people. During this time, we don't have a language. we used to use assigned languages, but this cave painting, helped them to pass on their knowledge to different large generations. This is where it started. We started painting 33 years ago, 33,000 years ago, right? And painting is pretty directly related with design, right? Cool. 5,500 years ago, what happened? We moved from stone to bronze. What is the what is the design lesson here? It's the need we understand. The humans have understand that stone is no more capable of providing us with a lot of utilities, right? And they were looking for some other tools, and they found bronze, right? And when they found bronze, they made tools out of it. And you can see here the ergonomics has been taking place here. They have designed, or I can see this hammer kind of stuff. They have a beautiful ergonomic. I can easily have that hold with my hand. That's the beauty. That's how they have designed that. That's how the ergonomics comes in. Even you can see the aesthetic parts here. This pattern here, it looks beautiful. It is 5,500 years ago they have designed this. If somebody comes to you and say, design just evolved couple of years ago, show them this is way beyond your thinking. It has evolved somewhere around million years ago, right? You can see the traces of design here. Necessity make us design. And then what happened after about 5,000 years ago, the language was an invention. Like we invented language, and we invented the alphabets. We started to write. If you're a graphic designer, if you are a designer who are more closely working with typography, this is the place where you should go back and start learning how human started to write. If you're a graphic designer, if you are a designer who's related to typography, you should go back to this stage and try to learn how they have really started typing, or how the language really starts. If you're a communication designer, you should go back to this stage and try to learn about this thing. 5,000 years ago. All right. Then 4,500 years ago, we started to create big monuments such as monoliths on the left hand side and pyramids. It requires huge design to create this kind of monuments, right? It cannot be like somebody has just thought about it and then they said, go build, right? They must have done a proper design for this. They must have thought about it. They must have planned for it as to how the room would be for the mummies, kept the mummies inside that room. You see, there are a lot of documentaries. You can go and watch these documentaries. If you're an architectural designer, you should go back and start learning about how they have built these things, right? So every designer, as I'm going back from past to coming to present, you will see there are traces where you can go and learn. For graphic designers, you should go back and start learning about how people started painting, right? The cave painting thing. And then the language, when we started writing the alphabets. If you're architectural design, you should come here, and start learn about the pyramids, the monoliths, right? This is where you can find. And then 3,500 years ago, we started to use iron instead of stones. Now again, our needs evolve, right? We were using the bronze, but the bronze was not so hard. It used to get broken down when we extensively start using it. And then out of necessity, the needs get changed, and then we start finding out something else, and then we found iron, and we started building all our tools using iron. And you can see the ergonomics still there, the usability factor is still there, the needs that human had, that the bronze had an entire bronze thing, and then extensively using it make our hands hurt, and then they started using wood as a handle. You can see here, right? This is how things get evolved. This is how even people long years ago started thinking about design, right? Look at this usability of this, right? This hammer on the top one. This is how design is really impacting our past lives also, our past as well, help our ancestors. in making their life easy. And then something great happened in about 2000 years ago. We started to print in a wood block, right? It was developed in China first, where they started printing in a wood block. Again, if you're a graphic designer, and if you're a UI designer, or you are a designer who is really a fan of typography, you should go back to this stage and try to understand how they used to print things. From where the concept of point, you write, whenever you select a font, what do? You say 12 pt, right? What is that pt? That pt is point. Point is the size of this one character, the size of the character. So you have to go back. If you're a graphic designer or UI designer who is working a lot with typography, you should start learning about these things, as to what exactly the point is. It will give you lots of foundational knowledge when you go back and try to learn from the history. Cool. Then about 1,500 years ago, we started, we have been, or Bishing invented the world first technique for printing with movable type. Uh, People can carry this device and they can start printing things, or wherever they can go, and they can carry this printing things with them. Then 600 years ago, we invented the first ever printing press. You can see we started to print books. We started printing a lot of documents, newspapers, and everything, through which the knowledge was shared to everyone, and the sharing of knowledge become faster. About 500 years ago, Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. And then the revolution of art, or the fine art, come into existence, where people were really keen about art part of it, right? The beauty, when he created this, people were mesmerized by looking at her beauty. It's all about arts, right? It's all about painting. About 2000 years ago, industrial revolutions happened, and a lot of things changed. We were talking about increasing the efficiency and production of manufacturing processes. You can see the printing press here, which is huge. Earlier we used to print one book for a couple of hours with one machine. Now during this age, we were able to print thousands of books simultaneously, right? And we made a lot of different changes in our system. We started having factories where we had steam machines like this, which can make our things faster, and we can produce bigger things as well. Then some movements happened. In 1880, there's a movement called Art Nouveau. With the main objectives of Art Nouveau was to break down traditional distinction between fine arts and applied art. So there was a distinction between fine art and applied art. They were working in silos. So what this movement does is they brought them together, and then the art become one part. You can see here, this is one of the beautiful example of Art Nouveau, where they have clubbed together. So earlier than this revolution or this movement, design used to be, or this portrait kind of design would somewhere in a block things. They don't use lines as such, right? And hence they started using lines, and you can see this is a real of an entrance which combine both the fine art as well as the applied art. And then the biggest one, this is one of the biggest revolution. The movement of Bahawas is one of the biggest one, because still now we are part of this movement, right? The main objective of this movement was to unify art, craft, and technology. That's what we are doing, right? You can see the phone which we have. It's a beautiful combination of art, craft, and technology, right? So we are still part of this movement. And because of this movement, lots of product have evolved. Okay, one of the greatest person who have transformed the entire design industry is Deicho Rams. He is the person who has given us 10 golden rules of design, and also he is also the famous. He is also the person who has given us this famous quote called "less but better." The entire minimalistic thing work on this concept, the code which he has given, less but better. One example, Apple, they said simplicity, simplicity, minimalistic. They follow his principle. If you can see closely, this is one of the product of the 80s RAM, and it will remind you of some product of Apple. Okay, I'm not going to name that, but it does. Then the diagram has also given us this 10 golden rules of design. What good design should look like. So one is good design is innovative, right? It should be innovative. Then good design makes a product useful, which is very important. Third point is good design is aesthetically pleasing. Number 4 is good design makes a product understandable, right? When you look at the product, people will understand what product is. What is the benefit of this product would be. Good design is unobstructive. It will not obstruct you to do something or to achieve your goal. So good design will make your goal, achieving goal, easier. Number 6, good design is honest, right? Nowadays there are a lot of products which are not honest, which doesn't tell you what data they are stealing from you. Okay. Number 7, good design makes a product long lasting. Okay, so product will be made up of good materials, right? So that it long lasts. Good products, good design is thorough. It is thoroughly explained, or it's thoroughly giving you every information required. Good design is environmental friendly. 9 number. Number 10 is good design is as little as possible, which is again minimalistic, which is less but better, the concept. So 1961, the diagram has given us this. And then the biggest revolution happened. In 1984, Apple introduced Macintosh, the first PC or the first personal computer. When Apple launched this, earlier to this, a computer used to be bigger than a room, right? You have to keep machines which is full of this room. That was the part that was how the computer are, and Apple changed it. And after Apple launched in 1994 and 1990, Adobe launched Photoshop, which made it easy, or which have opened the door for everyone to do graphic design, or specifically digital graphic design, which is the core foundation from where UI UX does start. If you want to become a UX designer now, you should always go back here and try to understand what are the aspect Apple has taken care of, and as well as Adobe has taken care of, while creating this user interface or user experience. You definitely have to go back and start learning about it, which will really give you a core understanding about the user interface, or they call it GUI, graphical user interface, right? Go back and start learning about this. Also will give you enormous sum of information. Okay, so today we are here today. So what does design look like today? This is one of the campaign of Barack Obama, and many people believes that because of this graphic design, because of this design, Barack Obama won the election. This one art, this one piece of graphic design, right? The product design space, right, where UI UX design space has grown so much that we have evolved from just look and feel. Now we are closely working with how things would work. This is one of the example, wherein we can see we are showing the output of our medical devices in a screen, and with a very precise informations. There's another company, I forgot the name of this. They have built this robotic hen. You see how delicately it has been designed. You cannot say that it is I cannot really make a difference if I have a skin on top of it, and if somebody asks me it's a robotic hen, I will not be able to do it, because the toughest challenge for a robotic hen is to grip with this thumb and the index, and they have solved it. This is what design has done. All right. And then biggest machines, I have an experience with this. I can tell you this. Earlier, when a patient has to do an X-ray, the patient has to be taken to that X-ray room, right? Now the industrial design has evolved so much that the X-ray machine can be taken to the patient's bed, right? Earlier it was patient have to go to the room. Now the machine goes to the patient. This is just because of design, because designers thinks out of the box, and they have designed this concept, and then they have built on top of it. This is only because of design. These four examples will tell you how great designers are doing nowadays. And this is also opportunity for all of you who have joined us today to do something great for this universe, for this earth. All right, so this was all about the history. I'll give you two example also about history. One I have already talked about in last session as to um, the importance of knowing things from its deep root, right? I talked about the color purple. How does it get related with royalty? So when the color was founded, or the color was formed, after mixing a lot of different colors, it was pretty expensive to print anything on with that color, and it was highly um, or it is pretty expensive, so they were not able to do it for general people, and only kings and queens, they were able to, they can afford to print their clothes or everything in purple, and hence they started printing or making clothes or curtains or anything with they like, or they have to do it, like books and all the stuff. They started printing in purple, and that's how it got related with royalty, right? So this kind of understanding will come to you if you understand the history of design, if you go back and understand the history of each of the aspects which you are learning. I'll give you an example of typeface also. So whenever you look at sans serif font type, right? Sorry, serif font type, typeface. What does it tell you, right? Psychologically, a serif font give us a trust feeling, give us a feeling of trust, or I can say it gives us a feeling of strong bond, right? Why does it does so? Because we have been looking at this typeface since long ago, because the first typeface which we humans started to print is with serif font, and hence it got related with trust, that the older the things are, the more valuable they become, or they are more trustworthy, right? And hence that feeling comes to us. So these are the things, these are the two examples I've given you. I've given you one color of purple, the other is a serif font. If you go back to history and try to learn each and aspects of those part, it will give you a foundation knowledge. And hence I've given you some brief about the history of design here. Okay, beautiful. So we have covered the history, where we have talked in depth about the biggest events which happened in history and how those are related with design. Now we'll come back and we'll try to understand what are the key components of design. What are the components which make design a design? All right. First, that it should be beautiful. Every design should be beautiful, because the first thing human looks at is at its beauty, right? When you look at a flower, you look at its color and you get attracted, and then you want to smell it, or you want to have a nice look at it, but without its beauty you will not look at it first. So beauty, it is humans innate character to look at beauty first, and then we will look at the other aspects of it. So the first core component of design is beauty, that whatever product you are building, whatever, if it is a digital product or if it is a physical product, it has to be beautiful, it has to be aesthetically pleasing. All right, you have to learn how to make your product beautiful. Number two, every design you are making, or every product, or every physical product or digital product you're making, it should have a utility value. That means it should be usable, it is of use, right? If you make something beautiful and it doesn't have a function, right, then that is useless. For example, if you have a screen, if you have created a screen and you have kept couple of shapes inside it, and but those shapes doesn't have any meaning, then it's useless, right? It doesn't have any meaning with that shapes, right? So every product which you are making, it has to have a utility value, it has to be usable, it is it is ergonomic, people can use it, people can hold it, or it gives that value out of that product. Without that value, the product is useless, as simple as that. Beautiful. The second, that it should give value. That's what I'm saying. The first thing people look at is beauty, then they will look at it, at its value, what value it's going to give me, right? The third thing is sustainability. That whatever you are building, whatever product you are creating, if it is a digital product or it's a physical product, that it should be socially and environmentally acceptable. Okay, environmental environmentally, I think everyone will understand this. I'll give you an example. Suppose you are building a chair. You are creating a chair. You should make sure that all the raw materials which are being used to build that chair are biodegradable, right? That it it can be recycled. For example, if it's a hard plastic, then it should be recyclable. That is environmental factor. The social factor would be that chair's height should be optimum for European as well as Asian. European in the sense, European are taller. Generally, they are taller, as well as Asian, they are shorter. So your chair design should be as such, or it should be flexible enough so that both both region can accept it, right? Both society, as European society as well as Asian society, can accept it. This is one example. Cool. I think I'm clear with the sustainable. So we'll move on. Okay, now the most important part. Okay, so we understand the three core aspects of design: the beauty, um, utility, and the sustainability. Right. So we'll talk about principles now. Um, there are a number of principles, but I'm going to talk about only 4 principles, which is very common principles, which is mostly used principle. All right. The first one is alignment. Right. Alignment is is um, is where every element in design is visually connected to one another. So every element in the design are connected in some way. If you look at the example on the right hand side, you can see the top part are properly aligned. It looks like a same category. They looks like a same family. But the bottom one, they are out of alignment. They doesn't look good as well. Your eyes tend to differentiate it by saying they are all different things, right? So alignment is this. So alignment is when you do a text alignment or left aligned text, or practically it's called rigged, but you generally speaking, it's called alignment. Text alignment. That is one. This is one principle, and it's get applied to every design aspects, be it UI UX design, be it graphic design, be it product physical product design, be it architectural design, be it animation, be it anything. All right. The next principle is consistency. Your design should be consistent. Whatever components you're using, that has to be consistent. If one component is color, your color should be consistent throughout your design, right? Consistency is about making element uniform. For example, on the right hand side, you can see the look and feel, or the three screens you can see here. They are consistent, they are similar. You have the same background, which is a white background, and then the same way of, the typeface are same. They are similar. It's consistent. Mm, the search button at the top are consistently placed, right? They are at the top. If you look at Amazon app also, you have the search button at the top. It is always there, right? So you always remember that the search button at the top, and the bar at the bottom, the quick navigation things at the bottom. So these are the small things which make your design consistent, and this is one of the most important principle to make things consistent. When you make things consistent, your user will really understand what will come next, or they will understand what do you want them to um, you know um, them to understand. All right. If you have a header like this, whenever a product page open up, They will understand that every time I go here, there's the name of the product will come here, right? So it helps in predictability. Your user will be able to predict it properly. So and the more predictable your product will be, the more usable it become. Okay, so next design principle is contrast. There are two types of contrast we can do. By contrast, we mean unique elements should stand out from one another, right? So there are two types of contrast, or there are many types of contrast can be used. So two examples are color contrast. You are contrasting it with two different colors, or multiple colors. For example, if you see some pricing pages of a product, you can see a most highlighted one or the most important one are generally used in a different color so that they can be highlighted. They can be kept on focus. Okay, and the size contrast. If the item is more, you need to emphasize more on that bigger item, or that item you have to make it bigger than the uh, normal other elements. Next principle is repetition, right? The more repetition you use in your product, the product become more cohesive and it will become consistent. All right, if you can see here, this is a card element which has been repeated twice, and it is consistent, right? I know that this is about the course, right? And exactly here, this is also about course, and I can see the price here, so I know the price will also be always be at the top, right? And then the view jobs button at the bottom, so I always know that there's a view jobs button at the bottom. So it becomes the design, when you repeat your elements multiple time, it become consistent also. And as I said, consistency will make your user predict things properly, and the more predictable your application or product is, the more easy it is to use. So these are the four principles which I talked about: alignment, contrast, consistency, and repetition. These are the most important principle and most commonly used principles. Now let's talk about different type of designers, right? So there are huge number of designer. People are calling themselves, weird kind of designs also, right? So I'll give you a couple of them. Some of the most common type of designers are: number one, UI designer, who are mostly concerned about creating user interface, right? Then we have UX designer, who are mostly concerned about the entire experience of the product. Then we have graphic designers who design the graphics. Then we have fashion designer. By the name, you can guess as to what their role would be, or what their task would be. Then we have architectural design, right? Then we have web designer. The difference between web and UI would be, web designers morely concerned about more aspects of only web. They are not concerned about the application part, whereas UI designer are flexible in both web as well as app. Then we have animation designer, the animation thing which you look at in videos or in an application, or anywhere you look at some kind of animation. There is specific designers who does that. Then we have industrial product designer. I've given you an example of Deitis Ram, who is one of the industrial product designer who has designed great products. Right. Okay, so now the important part. We have looked at a lot of different type of designers, right? Now, what is the relation between these designers and the principles? The answer is, the principles for every designers is same. I've talked about the four principles. I'll give you two examples here as well. The design principles applicable to everyone. They are same consistently everywhere. I'll talk about alignment. You look at this example of UI designers. For example, UI designer designing this. So there is an alignment. Let's justify everything. Text are left aligned. This paragraph are left aligned. The call to action buttons are left aligned. If you look at this building, right? If an architecture design is, look at the alignment of these windows. They're properly aligned. Right? They're not like one here, one there, and one here, one there. They're properly aligned, right? If you see this pillar, this slab as well, they are properly aligned. They have a alignment of every aspects of design. Look at this design now. Now you can see these buttons are properly aligned here. From here they are aligned properly. Here it is aligned properly. The white space management are properly done. So you can see alignment is applicable everywhere. So alignment is a design principle, and it gets applied to every design, every design type. Okay. Next is consistency. Okay, so next, consistency. You can see this product is pretty consistent by itself, and if you can see the whole product line also, it's consistent. They have the same kind of design pattern, same kind of colors, contrast and everything, so they are consistent. And I can, by looking at this entire image, I can say this has been produced by one company, right? Even if the single product, if you look at this single product, you can see this patch here, this part here is consistent with this part, right? This bottom part as well, the size here, the size here where the footrest is, the where the rest is, that are also consistent. If you can see in the UI design, the color schemes used, the typography used, everything is consistent. So these are the design principles, and there are a lot of design principles, and these are common for every designers. Okay, so next time when you talk to any kind of designer, right, don't think that their work is different. Their work is exactly the same work which you guys will do in future. For example, you will become a UX designer, then your job and that architectural job is same. He is architectural designer is doing with the architecture thing. I mean, he's solving a problem with the architecture thing, you are solving a problem with your digital product. The task is same for both of you. All right, so designers remains all designers remains the same. They use the same principles throughout their design process. Okay, so overall the conclusion here is for today is that do not worry about what people are calling yourself, or what people are calling to your design space, or design whatever space you are into, right? Every designer follows the same principle. Every designer have to learn these principles, and if you learn this principle, you will become a great designer. Okay, so with that, I'm concluding this session here, and next week it is going to be interesting, because now, as we have built up, as we have understood what design is, we also have checked out a couple of we also have talked about 4 design principles. I will try to share some more principles with you guys in next pre-reads. You can look at that, and next week we're going to talk about what is UX design, which is pretty interesting, because that's where the core is, right? So the entire course is all about the basic of UX design. So now that you have understood what design is, we will jump into UX design. But remember this thing, the 3 core components is very important. Okay, the beauty, always remember this, the beauty, utility and sustainability. This is very important. If you master these 3, then you can become a great designer. Awesome. So next week, UX design. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll start with the Q.